The bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie was busy with crew members working at their stations. Captain Sam Carter sat in his command chair, looking at the latest reports from deep space. The ship was on a standard patrol mission near the edge of human-controlled space. Lieutenant Jake Murphy sat at the communications station, monitoring incoming signals. Suddenly, his console lit up with an unfamiliar pattern. He frowned and adjusted his headset. "Captain, we're receiving an emergency broadcast," Murphy reported. "It's coming from about 12 light-years away, near the Kepler system." Carter stood up and walked over to Murphy's station. "Can you identify the source?" "No, sir, it's not in our database. The universal translator is having trouble with it." Murphy worked his controls, trying to clean up the signal. The bridge fell quiet as everyone listened to the garbled transmission. Slowly, broken words began to form in English. "Help. Invaded. Dying. Please." Carter's face grew serious. He had been in space for 20 years and had heard many distress calls, but this one sounded desperate. "Can you get a fix on the exact location?" "Yes, sir. I've got coordinates. It's definitely from an inhabited system we haven't had contact with before." The captain returned to his chair and pressed a button on the armrest. "All hands, this is the captain. We've received a distress call from an unknown species. Prepare for possible rescue operations." He turned to his navigation officer, Lieutenant Paul Wright. "Plot a course to those coordinates. Maximum warp." "Aye, sir. Course laid in." "Murphy, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we're investigating a distress call and may need backup." The young lieutenant nodded and began composing the message. "Sir, should I try to respond to the distress call?" Carter thought for a moment. "Yes, tell them help is on the way. Keep it simple." As Murphy worked on the response, the ship's science officer, Commander Kate Johnson, approached the captain. "Sir, that region of space is largely unexplored. We don't know what we'll find there." "I know, Commander, but someone is asking for help. It's our duty to respond." Carter's voice was firm. He knew that humans had a reputation in the galaxy. Other species called them Deathworlders because Earth was classified as a hostile planet. But despite this fearsome reputation, humans believed in helping those in need. "Entering warp in 10 seconds, Wright announced. The stars outside the viewscreen stretched into lines as the U.S. Valkyrie jumped to faster-than-light speed. During the journey, Carter called a meeting of his senior officers. In the conference room, he addressed his team. "We don't know what we're heading into. It could be a trap, or we might be dealing with a genuine emergency. I want all departments ready for anything." Chief Engineer Bob Taylor spoke up. "My teams are checking all systems. We'll be ready for whatever comes." Dr. Beth Green added, "Medical Bay is preparing for possible casualties. I've alerted my staff to be ready for alien physiology." Security Chief Frank Martinez was more cautious. "Captain, with respect, shouldn't we wait for backup? If this is an invasion situation, one ship might not be enough." Carter nodded. "Fair point, Frank. But by the time reinforcements arrive, it might be too late for whoever sent that signal. We'll assess the situation when we get there. If it's too dangerous, we'll fall back and wait for the fleet." The meeting continued for another hour as they planned for various scenarios. When it ended, Carter returned to the bridge. The countdown timer showed 3 hours until arrival. As the U.S. Valkyrie raced through space, the distress signal continued to play on the speakers. The broken words painted a picture of desperation and fear. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, an unknown species was crying out for help, and humanity was coming to answer their call. The U.S. Valkyrie dropped out of warp at the edge of the Valkyrie system. Captain Carter stood up from his chair as the viewscreen filled with a scene of destruction. Broken ships drifted in space, their hulls torn open. In the distance, a planet hung in the darkness, surrounded by hundreds of alien vessels. "My God," Murphy whispered from his station. "Look at all those ships." Before Carter could respond, more human ships appeared around them. The massive U.S. Tempest, one of Earth's newest dreadnoughts, took position nearby. Soon, 47 human vessels filled the space around the Valkyrie. "Incoming message from the Tempest," Murphy announced. The view screen changed to show Admiral Lisa Warren. She was a tall woman with gray hair and hard eyes. "Captain Carter, good work finding this place. I'm taking command of the fleet. Stand by for orders." "Yes, Admiral," Carter replied. The screen switched back to the view of the system. Commander Kate Johnson studied her instruments. "Captain, I'm reading 2 different types of ships. The ones near the planet appear to be the invaders. The smaller vessels trying to escape, those must be the natives." Carter watched as several escape ships tried to leave the planet's atmosphere. Bright beams of energy shot out from the invading fleet, cutting through the fleeing vessels like paper. The escaped ships exploded, one after another. "They're killing civilians," Lieutenant Paul Wright said, his voice filled with anger. A new face appeared on the side of the main screen. Commander Tony Rodriguez from the Tempest began briefing all ships. "Listen up, everyone. The species under attack are called the Valteri. Our xenobiology teams have analyzed their distress signal. They're a peaceful race of plant-based life forms. They've never developed weapons because they've never had wars." Rodriguez continued, "The attackers are the Kreth Empire. They're known for conquering other species and taking their resources. Intelligence suggests they see the Valteri as valuable, as food." The bridge crew exchanged shocked looks. Chief Martinez gripped his console tighter. "They're harvesting sentient beings." "That's correct," Rodriguez confirmed. "The Kreth are loading Valteri civilians onto transport ships. We estimate they've already taken thousands." Admiral Warren's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Warren. The Kreth outnumber us 3-1. They have about 140 vessels to our 47. But we didn't come here to count ships. We came to save lives." She paused, then continued. "The Kreth have ignored our hails. They're continuing their attack on the planet. As of this moment, we are at war. All ships, battle stations." Alarms sounded throughout the Valkyrie. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for combat. Carter took his seat and fastened his safety harness. "Murphy, try to contact the Valteri. Let them know we're here to help." The lieutenant worked his controls. After a moment, a weak signal came through. The translator struggled with the alien language, but the message was clear enough. "Thank you for coming. We are dying. Please save our seedlings." Dr. Beth Green spoke up from her station. "Captain, seedlings must mean their children. They're begging us to save their kids." Carter's jaw tightened. He had 2 daughters back on Earth. The thought of alien monsters harvesting children made his blood run cold. "Enemy ships are moving," Wright reported. "They're forming attack wings." The Kreth vessels were strange to look at. They seemed to be made of crystal, reflecting light in rainbow patterns. But their beauty hid their terrible purpose. Admiral Warren's voice was calm and cold. "All ships, prepare for combat. Remember your training. These Kreth have never fought humans before. They don't know what Deathworlders can do. Let's teach them." The human fleet spread out into combat formation. The battle for the Valteri system was about to begin. And the Kreth were about to learn why humans were feared throughout the galaxy. The war room aboard the U.S. Tempest was filled with the senior officers from the human fleet. Admiral Warren stood at the head of the holographic table, watching as the Kreth and human fleets appeared as colored dots in the display. Captain Dave Mitchell from the U.S. Phoenix raised his hand. "Admiral, the Kreth have superior numbers and firepower. If we face them head-on, we'll lose." Warren nodded. "I agree, Captain. That's why we're not going to fight them head-on. Anyone have suggestions?" The room fell quiet for a moment. Then Mitchell stepped forward to the holographic display. "The Kreth are used to civilize warfare. They expect us to follow the rules of engagement that most species follow. Energy weapons, shields, proper battle lines." He manipulated the display, showing the asteroid field near the 4th planet. "But we're from Earth. We learned to fight dirty because our world tried to kill us every day. I say we use that. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Chen from the Marine contingent leaned forward. Are you suggesting guerrilla tactics in space? Exactly, Mitchell smiled. Hit and run attacks. False retreats. And these asteroids here, he pointed to the field, we can use them as weapons. Several officers gasped. Admiral Warren studied the display. You want to throw rocks at them. Not throw, Mitchell corrected. Push. We have mining ships with us. They can attach engines to asteroids and send them into the Kreth formation. The Kreth shields are designed for energy weapons, a 1,000,000-ton rock moving at high speed. Their shields won't stop that. Captain Rick Johnson from the U.S. HFY spoke up. We could also use micro-jumps. Jump in, fire everything we have. Jump out before they can respond. The Kreth ships are bigger and slower. They can't match our mobility. And their computers, Lieutenant Kevin Park, the fleet's cyber warfare specialist, added. I've been analyzing their signals. Their security is weak. I can write viruses that will confuse their targeting systems, maybe even turn their weapons on each other. Admiral Warren listened to each suggestion. These weren't the tactics taught at the academy. They were brutal, primitive, and completely unexpected. Perfect for dealing with an enemy who thought humans would fight fair. What about boarding parties? Colonel Dan Roberts asked. My Marines are ready to take the fight to them directly. Chen nodded. We have chemical weapons that should work on their ship atmospheres. Nothing lethal to us, but it'll eat through their environmental suits. The room fell silent as everyone considered the proposals. These tactics would shock the galactic community. But the Kreth were harvesting sentient beings. They deserved no mercy. Commander Julie Foster from Engineering raised her hand. Admiral, I can have my teams ready to modify the mining ships within 6 hours. We'll need to be careful with the calculations, but we can turn those asteroids into guided missiles. Warren looked around the room at her officers. These were humans who had grown up hearing stories of Earth's violent history. They knew how to fight when survival was on the line. Do it all, she ordered. Mitchell, you'll lead the asteroid attack. Johnson, organize the hit-and-run squadrons. Park, I want those viruses ready to deploy. Roberts, prepare your Marines for boarding operations. She turned to the holographic display. The Kreth think they're dealing with another civilized species. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten innocents in front of Deathworlders. As the officers filed out to prepare their forces, Warren remained behind with Carter. Captain, I need the Valkyrie to get close to the planet. Try to establish communications with the Volteri. We need to coordinate our rescue efforts. Carter saluted. Yes, Admiral. We'll get through to them. The human fleet began to move, splitting into smaller groups. The Kreth, watching from their crystal ships, must have been confused. No species had ever fought them like this. They were about to receive an education in human warfare. Captain Rick Johnson gripped his command chair as the U.S. HFY completed another micro-jump. The destroyer appeared behind 3 Kreth vessels, unleashed its weapons, and vanished before the enemy could turn their guns. Jump complete, his navigator reported. Direct hits on all targets. Through the view screen, Johnson watched the Kreth ships struggling to respond. Their beautiful crystal hulls showed scorch marks where human missiles had struck. The aliens were learning that human ships might be smaller, but they were fast and vicious. Across the battlefield, Commander Julie Foster floated in zero gravity inside a mining ship. Her team had attached massive engines to a dozen asteroids. She checked her calculations one more time. Engine 3 is ready, her assistant called out. All systems show green. Foster smiled grimly. Light it up. Send this rock right into their formation. The engines fired, pushing the kilometer-wide asteroid toward the Kreth fleet. The aliens detected it quickly, but their weapons were made for fighting ships, not moving mountains. Their energy beams barely scratched the surface as the asteroid gained speed. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kevin Park sat at his cyber warfare station aboard the U.S. Tempest. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he prepared his digital attack. The Kreth computer systems were advanced but arrogant. They never expected anyone to hack them during battle. "Virus ready," he announced to Admiral Warren. "On your command." Warren watched the tactical display. "Do it." Park pressed enter. The malicious code spread through the Kreth battle network like wildfire. Within seconds, Kreth ships began firing randomly. Some shot at empty space. Others turned their weapons on their own allies. "Their fleet communication is down," Park reported. "They can't coordinate anymore." On the Kreth flagship, Admiral Zektar stared at his malfunctioning displays in horror. "What is happening? Why are our ships attacking each other?" His science officer's crystalline form flickered with fear. "The humans. They fight like no species we've encountered. They're throwing asteroids at us. They're poisoning our computers." The first asteroid struck a Kreth battleship with the force of a nuclear weapon. The massive vessel crumpled like paper, its crystal hull shattering into millions of pieces. Two other Kreth ships couldn't move away in time and were caught in the debris field. Sergeant Bill Thompson led his Marine squad through the corridors of a Kreth transport ship. They had boarded during the confusion, using chemical foam that dissolved the crystal walls. The Kreth warriors they encountered were tall and elegant, but they weren't ready for human close combat tactics. "Masks on," Thompson ordered as he threw a gas grenade. The chemical weapon was designed by human scientists who understood how to break down silicon-based life forms. The gas wouldn't hurt humans, but it ate through Kreth environmental suits in seconds. The Kreth warriors fell back, choking in their own atmosphere as their suits failed. Thompson's Marines moved forward, stunning and capturing the aliens. Their main goal was to reach the cargo holds where Valtteri civilians were being held. Back in space, the human wolf packs continued their devastating hit-and-run attacks. Captain Nancy Williams watched from the bridge of the U.S. Defiance as her fighter squadrons tore through Kreth escort ships. "They can't adapt fast enough," her tactical officer observed. "Every time they adjust their formation, we hit them from a new angle." The Kreth had never faced an enemy like this. Other species fought with honor and predictable patterns. Humans fought like the predators they had evolved from, cunning, relentless, and utterly without mercy for those who hurt innocents. A second asteroid smashed into the Kreth fleet, destroying a command cruiser and damaging 6 other vessels. The beautiful crystal ships, so powerful against traditional enemies, were being torn apart by humanity's primitive but effective tactics. "Intercepted Kreth transmission," Murphy reported from the Valkyrie. "They're calling us demons. They don't understand how we fight." Captain Carter allowed himself a cold smile. "Good. Let them learn what happens when you attack the innocent." Admiral Warren stood on the bridge of the U.S. Tempest as her fleet pushed through the scattered Kreth lines. The enemy formation had broken under the relentless human assault. Now it was time for the final push toward the Valtteri homeworld. "All ships, form up for the breakthrough," she commanded. "Carriers, launch all fighters. We're going straight through." The U.S. Defiance and U.S. Liberty moved into position alongside the Tempest. Their hangar doors opened, releasing waves of fighter craft. Commander John Davis led the first squadron, his fighter weaving between debris from destroyed Kreth vessels. Captain Nancy Williams watched her pilots launch from the Defiance's bridge. These weren't just pilots. They were humans who had grown up on a world where death could come from the sky, the sea, or the land itself. Their reflexes were sharp, their instincts deadly. Davis spotted a group of Kreth fighters moving to intercept. The alien craft were sleek and fast, but their pilots flew in perfect formation. Too perfect. He smiled inside his helmet and gave quick hand signals to his squadron. The human fighters suddenly scattered in all directions, like a school of fish avoiding a predator. The Kreth pilots tried to follow, but they weren't used to such chaotic movements. Within seconds, the human pilots had surrounded them. "These Deathworlders fight like demons." A Kreth pilot screamed over their communications before his fighter exploded. Admiral Zektar watched from his flagship as his fleet continued to fall apart. The humans weren't following any rules of warfare he knew. They used asteroids as weapons, viruses as soldiers, and fought with a savagery that shocked even battle-hardened Kreth warriors. "Admiral, we've lost 40% of our fleet," his second-in-command reported. "The humans keep appearing and disappearing. Our targeting computers are still malfunctioning." A third asteroid slammed into their formation, destroying 2 more ships. Zektar's crystalline features showed cracks of stress. How can they be so brutal? This isn't warfare. It's slaughter. On the human side, Warren studied the tactical display. The path to the planet was opening. "Murphy, can you reach the Valtteri now?" "Yes, Admiral. I have their Elder Council on the line." A soft, musical voice filled the bridge. The translator worked hard to convert the plant-like being's communication. "Humans, we see you fighting. The Kreth are fleeing from you, but they still have our seedlings." Warren's expression hardened. "Don't worry. We're coming for them. Can you give us the locations of their harvest ships?" "Yes. Sending coordinates. Please, they have taken 10,000 of our young." The bridge crew felt their anger rise. 10,000 children, stolen from their families. Warren turned to her weapons officer. "Target those harvest ships. Disable their engines, but don't destroy them. We need those kids alive." The human fleet surged forward. The U.S. Haybuck and its wolf pack appeared among the Kreth transport vessels, surgically striking their engine systems. Marine boarding craft launched from every human ship, carrying teams ready to rescue the captured Valtteri. In space, the fighter battle intensified. The Kreth pilots were skilled, but they couldn't match human unpredictability. Earth's children had evolved under constant threat, from weather, predators, and each other. This had created minds that could think 3 moves ahead while dodging death. "Break left," Davis shouted to his wingmen. They split apart just as Kreth energy beams passed between them. The human fighters looped back, catching their attackers from behind. The main Kreth fleet began to retreat toward the outer system. They had come expecting an easy harvest of peaceful plant beings. Instead, they had encountered humanity at its most protective and violent. "Sir," intercepting Kreth fleet communications, the Tempest's communication officer reported. "Zektar is ordering a withdrawal to the jump point." Warren watched the fleeing ships. Part of her wanted to let them go. But then she thought of the 10,000 Valtteri children in those transport ships. "They're not leaving with those kids," she said coldly. "All ships pursue and disable. No one leaves this system with slaves." The chase through the Valtteri system became a lesson in human hunting tactics. The Kreth ships were faster in straight lines, but the human vessels worked together like a wolf pack chasing prey across frozen plains. Captain Pete Anderson of the U.S. Storm watched his tactical display carefully. His cruiser led 3 other ships in a wide arc around the fleeing Kreth formation. They weren't trying to catch them directly. They were hurting them. "The minefield is ready," his weapons officer reported. "Stealth mines deployed along their escape route." Anderson nodded. This was how ancient humans had hunted on Earth. Drive the prey toward a trap. Make them run until they were too tired to fight back. The Kreth were about to learn why persistence hunting had made humans the dominant species on their deadly world. Admiral Zektar pushed his ships harder, desperate to reach the system's edge where they could jump to safety. His harvest ships, loaded with Valtteri seedlings, struggled to keep up with the warships. "Admiral, the humans are gaining," his navigator warned, "and they've stopped attacking directly. They're just following us." Zektar's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Why weren't the humans shooting? They had proven they could appear and disappear at will. Why this slow chase? Commander Helen Moore coordinated supply runs from the U.S. Freedom. While the Kreth burned through their fuel reserves fleeing at maximum speed, human supply ships dart in and out, refueling the pursuit vessels. Earth's children had learned long ago that the hunter who could run longest would win. Fuel transfer complete to the Storm, Moore reported to Admiral Warren. The Havoc is next in line. Warren studied the chase on her tactical display. The Kreth were being pushed exactly where she wanted them. How long until they reached the minefield? 15 minutes at current speed, her tactical officer replied. On the bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie, Captain Carter monitored communications between ships. The rescued Valteri on the planet below were sending constant updates about their missing children. Please, the Valteri elder's voice came through the translator. Our seedlings cannot survive long without proper light and soil. The Kreth do not understand our biology. Carter felt his anger grow. These weren't just prisoners of war. They were children who would die if not returned soon. He opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, the Valteri children need immediate rescue. No delays. The first Kreth ship hit the minefield. The explosion tore through its engines, leaving it spinning helplessly in space. 2 more ships tried to change course but found more mines waiting for them. It's a trap, Zektar screamed. All ships, emergency course change. But changing course at high speed used enormous amounts of fuel. The Kreth ships, already pushed to their limits, began to slow. This was what the humans had been waiting for. Wolfpack squadrons that had been pacing the Kreth suddenly accelerated. Fresh and fully fueled, they closed the distance rapidly. The U.S. Havoc appeared among the harvest ships, its weapons precisely targeting engine systems. Boarding teams go. Colonel Dan Roberts ordered. Marine assault shuttles launched from every human ship, racing toward the disabled Kreth vessels. The Kreth warriors tried to defend their ships, but they were exhausted from the chase. The human Marines, trained on a world where endurance meant survival, overwhelmed them quickly. Sir, we found them. Sergeant Thompson's voice crackled over the radio. Cargo Vol 3. Thousands of plant children in some kind of stasis containers. The pursuit continued across the system. One by one, Kreth ships fell into the traps or ran out of fuel. The humans had turned space itself into a hunting ground, using patience and endurance as weapons. Admiral Warren watched as the last harvest ship was boarded. Status report on the rescued children. Medical teams confirm most are alive but weak. They need to return to their planet immediately. Warren nodded with satisfaction. The chase was almost over. The Kreth had learned a painful lesson about threatening children in front of human protectors. The final battle took place near the system's outer gas giant. The remaining Kreth fleet, reduced to less than half its original strength, gathered for one last stand. Admiral Zektar's flagship floated at the center of the formation, its crystal hull showing battle damage. On the bridge of the U.S. Tempest, Admiral Warren received a transmission from the Kreth commander. Zektar's image appeared on the screen, his crystalline form cracked and dim. Human Admiral, Zektar began, his translated voice carrying fear. We offer surrender. We will return the remaining Valteri seedlings in exchange for safe passage from this system. Warren's face showed no emotion. She looked at the reports from the rescue teams. 3,000 Valteri children had already died in the Kreth ships from lack of proper care. Her voice was ice cold when she replied. You invaded a peaceful species. You kidnapped their children. You let 3,000 of them die. She paused. There will be no negotiations. Surrender unconditionally or be destroyed. Zektar's form flickered with shock. You cannot do this. The Galactic Council forbids the complete destruction of surrendering forces. You must follow the laws of civilized warfare. The Council isn't here, Warren replied. And you forfeited any claim to civilized treatment when you took children. She cut the transmission and turned to her bridge crew. All ships, prepare for final assault. Nuclear weapons authorized. The human fleet formed up for attack. The weapons they prepared to use were considered primitive by galactic standards. Most species had moved beyond nuclear weapons centuries ago. But humans had perfected them during their violent history, and Kreth shields weren't designed to stop them. Captain Dave Mitchell aboard the U.S. Phoenix gave the order. Launch nuclear missiles. Target their capital ships. Dozens of missiles streaked across space. The Kreth tried to intercept them with energy beams, but the human weapons were protected by simple metal armor that dispersed the energy attacks. The first nuclear warhead detonated against a Kreth battleship's shields. The explosion was blinding. The electromagnetic pulse disrupted the crystalline ship's systems, and the following warheads broke through the weakened shields. The battleship shattered like glass hit by a hammer. Colonel Dan Roberts led the Marine assault on Zektar's flagship. His shuttles punched through the weakened shields, and Marines in power armor poured into the ship's corridors. The Kreth warriors fought desperately, but they were no match for humans in close combat. Roberts found Admiral Zektar on the bridge, surrounded by his remaining guards. The Kreth admiral's crystalline body was badly cracked, leaking luminous fluid. "You're all monsters," Zektar screamed. "How can you be so savage?" Roberts removed his helmet, revealing a scared face. "My daughter is the same age as those Valtteri kids you took. You want to know why we're savage? Because that's what it takes to protect the innocent from predators like you." Across the battlefield, the Kreth fleet died ship by ship. Nuclear fire consumed their beautiful crystal vessels. Marines stormed through their corridors, showing no mercy to any who resisted. Within hours, the entire invasion fleet was reduced to radioactive debris. The few Kreth who surrendered were taken prisoner. They would be turned over to the Galactic Council to face trial for their crimes. But their military might was broken forever. Admiral Warren stood on her bridge, watching the debris field that had once been a mighty fleet. Commander Tony Rodriguez approached with a final report. "All Valtteri children have been recovered and returned to their homeworld. The planetary medical centers report that most will survive with proper care." Warren nodded. "And the Kreth? Their entire invasion fleet is destroyed. No ships escaped. The prisoners we took are secured for transport to the Council." The Admiral turned away from the view screen. The battle was won, but she felt no joy. Only cold satisfaction that the threat was ended and the innocent were saved. The Valtteri homeworld bloomed with new life as the rescued seedlings were returned to their families. Ambassador Gentle Growth from Seed stood in the Grand Garden, watching human ships deliver the last of the children. Its bark-like skin rustled with emotion as it prepared to address the human fleet. Admiral Warren and Captain Carter stood beside the Valtteri leader. Around them, thousands of plant beings gathered, their leaves and flowers turning toward the humans like sunflowers following the sun. The air filled with a sweet scent, the Valtteri way of expressing gratitude. Admiral Warren, Gentle Growth from Seed's translated voice was soft but clear. "Your species answered our call when all seemed lost. You brought death to those who would harvest us. The Valtteri will remember forever." Warren bowed slightly. "We're glad we could help. No one should face such horror alone." Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread quickly. The Galactic News Network, broadcast from 100 worlds, showed footage of the destroyed Kreth fleet. Reporter Shixie of Altair faced the camera with her 4 eyes wide. "The humans have proven that their classification as Deathworlders isn't just about their hostile homeworld," she reported. "It's about their willingness to become death itself in defense of those who cannot defend themselves." On the Galactic Council station, representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the human action. The Kreth ambassador, one of the few of his kind not involved in the invasion, spoke with barely controlled anger. "The humans committed genocide. They destroy our entire fleet after we offered surrender." The human ambassador, Alan Rogers, stood calmly at the podium. "They offered conditional surrender while holding 10,000 children hostage. 3,000 of those children were already dead. We don't negotiate with child killers." Many representatives looked uncomfortable. The humans had broken several galactic conventions, but they had also saved an entire species from slavery and death. The Council's chair being, Ancient Proxima, raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "The Council recognizes that humanity acted to prevent a greater atrocity. While their methods were extreme, the Kreth Empire initiated hostilities against a peaceful species, No sanctions will be placed on Earth or its fleet. Back on the U.S. Tempest, Admiral Warren stood in her ready room with Commander Rodriguez. Reports from across human space showed support for the fleet's actions. The Galactic Council is calling this a massacre, Rodriguez said, reading from his tablet. Some species are saying we were too brutal. Warren looked out at the stars. Let them talk. When the next species sends out a distress call, they'll know that humanity will answer. And they'll know we'll bring the fury of a death world with us. The Volteri had prepared a ceremony to honor their saviors. In the Grand Garden, thousands of plant beings released spores into the air, their highest form of celebration. Gentle Growth from Seed presented Warren with a small potted sapling. This is from our tree of memory, the ambassador explained. It will grow on your ships and your worlds, carrying our gratitude through the generations. Wherever humans go, the Volteri will remember that you saved our seedlings. As the human fleet prepared to leave, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Some condemned their brutality. Others, especially smaller, peaceful species, sent quiet thanks. The message was clear. Earth would protect those who couldn't protect themselves. On the bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie, Captain Carter read a final transmission from Gentle Growth from Seed. You answered our cry in the darkness. You brought death to those who would have harvested us. The Volteri will remember always, when all seemed lost, the Deathworlders came. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a grateful ally and a warning to the galaxy. Earth's children had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. They had survived by becoming more dangerous than their environment, and they would use that danger to protect the innocent, no matter the cost.